I've told you before, this department is underperforming.
Absolutely.
And I've told you, we are doing the best we can with the resources we have. And
Imagine this. A crowded luxury department store in downtown Manhattan, filled with glittering chandeliers, polished marble floors, and the hushed murmurs of wealthy shoppers moving from counter to counter. At the center of it, all stands a tall, black woman in her early 40s, dressed in a sleek, tailored suit, exuding quiet power. She isn't just another customer, she's the CEO of one of the fastest rising tech conglomerates in the world, a woman whose decisions shift stock markets, and who holds billion-dollar contracts in her phone. Yet in this moment, she's just another shopper, until the cashier, a young manager trying to look important, refuses to run her black card. The audience needs to hear this because what happens next shocks everyone in the store, flips the script on who holds power, and sets off a chain of events that will decide the fate of a $4.5 billion deal. Before I tell you how it all unfolded, hit that subscribe button right now, because stories like this aren't just entertainment. They're lessons in respect, power, and the fact that in a world that still judges by appearances, you never truly know who you're standing in front of. Subscribe so you don't miss the next twist, because trust me, in this story, there's a new one every 2 minutes. The CEO's name was Alyssa Monroe, and people who worked in Wall Street whispered her name like a legend. She had built her empire from scratch, coding late into the night in her mother's basement before investors even believed in her vision. Now she controlled data, energy systems, and financial tech platforms that giants depended on. But that morning, Alyssa wasn't walking into the store as a CEO. She was walking in as a woman looking for a watch, a gift for her father, who had sacrificed everything so she could go to college. A man who had worked double shifts at a steel mill until his hands were scarred with burns. She spotted the watch, a limited edition piece with a price tag that would make most people gasp, $112,000. To Alyssa, it was priceless sentiment. She approached the counter, pulled out her black card, and placed it down. That was when the manager, a slick-haired 28-year-old named Bradley, gave her a smirk. "Sorry, ma'am," he said, in a tone dripping with condescension. "I can't run this card. People try these scams all the time. Do you have something else, maybe a debit card?" He let the word debit hang in the air like a test of humiliation. The entire line behind her went silent. A woman holding a designer handbag raised an eyebrow, clearly expecting Alyssa to be embarrassed and leave. Mini suspense won. Instead of leaving, Alyssa didn't flinch. She leaned forward, her calm eyes locking onto Bradley's, and simply said, "Run the card, now." The power in her voice made a man in line actually step back, but Bradley chuckled, shaking his head as if she had no right to command him. "I'm the manager here," he snapped, "and I decide what looks suspicious. This card looks suspicious. Unless you want to call someone else?" Mini Suspense 2 arrived faster than anyone expected. Alyssa reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and with a few taps placed it flat on the counter. The screen lit up with a secure app only high level. Financiers knew existed. "Do you know what this is?" she asked. Bradley squinted, confused. Alyssa continued, her tone still controlled. "It's the back-end system of Monroe Global Technologies. I don't just swipe cards, Bradley. I build the infrastructure banks like yours run on. You've just insulted the woman who makes your paycheck possible." Gasps rippled through the line. Bradley's smirk faltered, but pride pushed him to double down. "Lady, I don't care what app you've got. Rules are rules." Here's where Mini Suspense 3 slammed into the moment. Alyssa tilted her head, smiled faintly, and said, "Rules. Let me tell you about rules. Rule number 1, you never assume who someone is by what they look like. Rule number 2, you don't block a $4.5 billion contract because of your pride." Bradley blinked. "What are you talking about?" Alyssa slowly leaned forward and whispered just loud enough for others to hear. Your parent company is about to sign a $4.5 billion deal with me next week. Or rather, they were. Silence fell heavier than marble. The older woman clutching. The handbag nearly dropped it. A young man in a suit whispered, "Oh my God!" Bradley's face drained of color, but still he stammered, You're bluffing." Mini Suspense 4 rolled in. Alyssa opened her phone again and displayed the contract, her signature, the parent company's digital draft, the figures glowing on the screen. "This was yours to gain," she said. "But after today, consider it gone." She tapped her screen, and with one swipe the draft deal was cancelled in real time. The sound of the notification ping echoed like a gavel in a courtroom. Bradley froze, realizing he hadn't just embarrassed himself, he had cost his company billions. Yet the story didn't end there. Chapter 1 had just begun unraveling, and each minute was tightening a noose around Bradley's arrogance. Alyssa picked up her card, slid it back into her wallet, and turned to leave without the watch. But Mini Suspense 5, her phone buzzed. It wasn't a friend or assistant. It was the chairman of the parent company calling her personally. Everyone in the store watched as Alyssa answered on speaker. "Alyssa," the deep voice said urgently, "we just got a cancellation alert." "What happened?" Alyssa's eyes flicked toward Bradley, who was now pale and trembling. She spoke clearly, her voice carrying across the store. "What happened? Your manager refused to run my card. That's what happened." Gasps filled the air. Bradley actually stumbled backward, his knees buckling. Mini Suspense 6 dropped hard. The chairman's voice thundered, "Put him on the phone, now!" Bradley's hands shook as he took the device. Sir, I thought it was fake. I didn't..." The voice roared, "You just cost us $4.5 billion, you fool. You're finished. Do you hear me? Finished!" The phone nearly slipped from Bradley's hands as tears formed in his eyes. Alyssa calmly took her phone back and ended the call. The crowd didn't laugh, didn't mock. It was deadly silent, because they knew. They had witnessed something historic. A woman whose dignity was worth more than gold had just reminded the world what power truly looked like. But here's where the tension twisted even deeper. Mini Suspense 7. Alyssa didn't leave the store. Instead, she turned, walked back to the counter, and pointed to the watch. "Wrap it up," she said coolly. Bradley stammered, But the deal..." Alyssa cut him off. "Oh, the deal is gone. That's not coming back. But the watch? I'm still buying that, and you're still going to run my card." It was no longer about the watch. It was about control. When Bradley swiped her card this time, the machine approved instantly, the receipt printing like a surrender flag. Alyssa signed it without looking at him. She walked out with the watch in her hand, leaving behind whispers that would echo through the city for weeks. But the story only deepened from here, because outside the store, paparazzi had caught the entire exchange, and within hours, Alyssa's confrontation would explode across headlines worldwide. What began as humiliation in a store would spiral into corporate warfare, public debates, and a series of twists that would shake Wall Street itself. By the time Alyssa's car door closed, and her driver pulled away from the luxury department store, the internet was already on fire. Within 20 minutes, 3 different customers had uploaded shaky videos of the confrontation online, and hashtags like "Her Black Card CEO" and "Dacha $4.5 billion gone" began trending on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Millions of people were commenting, some cheering Alyssa for standing up against arrogance, others stunned at how casually a manager had dismissed her. But what nobody knew yet was that Alyssa had only set the first domino in motion. This was not just a viral moment. This was a chess game, and Alyssa had more than one move prepared. Mini Suspense 1. As her car cruised through Manhattan, her phone buzzed again. It wasn't the chairman this time. It was a government official from Washington, someone tied to infrastructure contracts worth tens of billions. The voice on the other end was sharp. Alyssa, we saw the video. Question is, are you still signing with Monroe Global this quarter, or is your hand moving to a different player? Alyssa didn't answer immediately. She looked out the tinted window, the city blurring by, and simply said, "Let's just say the market needs to learn something about respect. I'll call you when I decide." She ended the call, leaving the official on edge. Mini suspense too crept in as her driver handed her a folded note. "This was slipped under the windshield while we were parked, Mom." Alyssa opened it to find a handwritten message. "They're going to come after you. Watch your back." No signature, just black ink pressed hard enough to tear the paper. Alyssa frowned. Was it a prank, a warning, or something darker? She tucked the note away, but her instincts told her this story was bigger than a rude manager. Hours later, Mini Suspense 3 struck when the parent company of the luxury store held an emergency board meeting. A leaked audio recording revealed panic in the room. "We've lost $4.5 billion overnight. Investors are pulling back. Stocks are slipping. We can't afford this scandal." Another voice said bitterly, "All because one manager didn't know who she was." Yet not everyone was angry at Bradley. Some were furious at Alyssa. "She humiliated us publicly. We can't let her dictate terms. If we cave, every CEO will think they can play God." That was when a plan was hatched, not to apologize, but to retaliate. Mini Suspense 4 unfolded that evening as Alyssa sat in her penthouse suite, looking out over the city lights. Her assistant, Jasmine, entered with urgent news. "Alyssa, the board isn't just panicking. They're pushing back. They're planning to smear your name, rumors about your company, your leadership, maybe even your family." Alyssa leaned back, a slow smile playing across her lips. "Let them try," she said. But even as she spoke, the first wave hit. A breaking news headline flashing on financial networks: "Sources question stability of Monroe Global after CEO walks out on deal." Alyssa's phone buzzed with messages from allies, investors, and even rivals, all demanding to know if the story was true. Mini Suspense 5. Alyssa didn't panic. Instead, she walked to her private safe, opened it, and pulled out a hard drive. On it were records, conversations, and digital receipts, evidence of corruption inside the very company trying to smear her. She whispered to herself, "If they want war, war is what they'll get." The next morning, she leaked just one file to a journalist she trusted, proof that the luxury conglomerate's board had funneled money offshore to evade taxes. Within hours, the narrative flipped. The same news channels that questioned Alyssa's company now splashed headlines reading, "Board under fire for offshore accounts. Insider leak points to corruption." Mini Suspense 6 erupted when Bradley himself went on live television. Desperate to save his name, he painted Alyssa as a vindictive billionaire who destroyed honest workers' livelihoods over a minor misunderstanding. Millions tuned in. But in the middle of his speech, a reporter cut him off with breaking news. The offshore account scandal had been confirmed by federal investigators. Bradley froze on live TV, his excuses collapsing as the audience turned against him. Instantly, Alyssa, watching from her penthouse, shook her head. "Amateurs," she muttered. Mini Suspense 7 appeared 2 nights later when Alyssa attended a high-profile gala in Midtown. Cameras flashed as she arrived, but instead of being welcomed, she noticed certain board members glaring at her from across the ballroom. One of them, a silver-haired executive named Carter Vance, approached her with a glass of champagne. "You've made powerful enemies, Alyssa," he said smoothly. "Deals that size don't just vanish without blood being spilled." Alyssa raised her eyebrow. "Threats over cocktails? Classy." But Carter leaned closer, whispering, "You don't know who's really behind this." Bradley was just a pawn. Alyssa froze, her pulse quickening. If Bradley wasn't the true culprit, then who was pulling the strings? Mini Suspense 8 struck before she could respond. Her phone vibrated with a new notification. A private. Security alert. Attempted breach detected in Monroe Global servers. Alyssa excused herself and rushed outside. Someone wasn't just attacking her reputation, they were targeting her empire directly. Back at her command center, Alyssa's tech team confirmed it. Hackers linked to a shadow group were trying to destabilize her platforms. If they succeeded, billions in global infrastructure could collapse. Alyssa clenched her fists. This was no longer about a cancelled deal. This was war on a global scale. As Chapter 2 closed, the tension had shifted from a single humiliating moment in a store to a battlefield of corporate espionage, public opinion, and hidden enemies lurking in the shadows. Alyssa knew the real fight was only beginning, and the next twist would decide whether she emerged as the untouchable CEO of the future or the next casualty of a ruthless system. The night after the gala, Alyssa Monroe sat alone in her office, staring at the Manhattan skyline. The city looked calm from above, but she knew beneath the lights chaos was unfolding. Her company's servers had been hit with 3 more cyber attacks. Bradley had become a symbol of corporate incompetence, and Carter Vance's warning still echoed in her mind. Bradley was just a pawn. Mini Suspense 1. As midnight struck, Alyssa's secure phone rang with a voice she hadn't heard in years. Her old mentor, Eleanor Graves, one of the first black women to run a Fortune 500 company. "Alyssa," Eleanor said gravely, "I've been watching. They won't stop at smears. They'll come for your legacy, but remember, behind every corporate pawn is a king who thinks he's untouchable." Alyssa's pulse quickened. "Then I'll remind him what happens when pawns and queens meet." The next morning, Mini Suspense 2 arrived when a Wall Street Journal exposé dropped. The article claimed Alyssa herself had offshore accounts and questionable dealings. It was a lie, but the timing was deadly. Her stock price dipped by 12% in hours. Investors panicked. Rivals circled like sharks. Alyssa slammed the paper down. Someone had planted this. But who? That's when Jasmine burst into the office. "We traced the smear campaign," she said breathlessly. "It's coming from inside the parent company's boardroom, and Carter Vance is leading it." Alyssa's jaw tightened. Carter wasn't just threatening her. He was orchestrating the downfall. Mini Suspense 3. Alyssa didn't call Carter. Instead, she called Washington. She arranged a private meeting with the government official who had contacted her earlier. In a discreet D.C. townhouse, she laid out evidence of the conglomerate's corruption, the smears, the cyber attacks. The official listened silently, then leaned forward. "If you go public with this, you won't just destroy them, you'll destabilize half the market." Alyssa met his gaze. "Sometimes the market needs shaking. Respect is more valuable than stability." The official hesitated, then slid her a file. "If you want to win, you'll need this." Inside were sealed records of Carter Vance's personal dealings with foreign lobbyists, evidence strong enough to ruin him forever. Back in New York, Mini Suspense 4 exploded when Bradley, desperate and disgraced, showed up at Alyssa's headquarters. Security nearly threw him out, but Alyssa stopped them. "Let him in," she said coolly. Bradley's hands trembled as he spoke. I didn't know, I swear. Carter told me to deny the card. He said it would test you, said if you reacted, it would give them leverage." Alyssa's blood ran cold. "So you were their bait?" Bradley nodded miserably. "He promised. Be a promotion. I never thought it would spiral like this." Alyssa studied him in silence. She could crush him, but instead she said, "Then redeem yourself. Bring me everything you know about Carter." Mini Suspense 5 dropped the next day when Bradley delivered. Hidden memos, emails, recordings, proof that Carter Vance had orchestrated not only the humiliation, but also the smear campaign and cyber attacks. Alyssa smiled faintly. "Checkmate," she whispered. But instead of rushing, she waited. Timing was everything. Mini Suspense 6 unfolded at a live shareholder meeting streamed across the world. Carter stood on stage, smug and confident, insisting Alyssa was unfit to lead in a stable market. Cameras flashed, reporters scribbled, investors nodded uneasily. And then Alyssa walked into the room. Every head turned. She strode to the stage, heels clicking like hammers, and took the microphone. "Carter," she said softly, "you like to play games. But unfortunately for you, I don't play. I win." With that, she dropped a flash drive onto the podium. Screens lit up with Carter's secret dealings, offshore accounts, and links to the cyber attacks. Gasps filled the room. Carter's face went sheet white. Reporters swarmed, shouting questions. Investors booed, and federal officials waiting in. The wings moved forward to escort Carter away. Mini Suspense 7 struck immediately after. Just when everyone thought Alyssa had won, a new twist surfaced. The conglomerate's stock began to freefall. Billions were evaporating. Investors begged Alyssa to save the market by reinstating the deal she had cancelled. She could restore stability with one signature, but Alyssa stood firm. "No, you all wanted to teach me a lesson. Now you'll learn one yourselves." Her refusal sent shockwaves worldwide. Some called her reckless. Others hailed her as a revolutionary. Either way, she had just redefined the power dynamics of Wall Street. Mini Suspense 8 wrapped the saga with an unexpected ending. A week later, Alyssa sat with Eleanor Graves in a quiet cafe. Eleanor smiled. "You didn't just cancel a deal, Alyssa. You cancelled a system that thought it could humiliate you and still win." Alyssa sipped her coffee, glancing at the headlines on a passing newspaper. "Carter Vance arrested. Monroe Global stocks rebound stronger than ever." Her empire had not fallen. It had risen. Bradley, now working in Alyssa's foundation, as part of his redemption, walked by and nodded respectfully. The world had seen the story of a woman whose card was refused. But what they truly witnessed was the story of a CEO who refused to bow. And as the final suspense settled, Alyssa whispered, words that became legend in boardrooms across America and the UK. "Power isn't in the card. Power is in the hand that holds it."